Welcome to the Corner Kick Show. I am your host, Nick Prokop. With me is the venerable Joey DiNapoli. How are you doing today, Joey?
The venerable Joey DiNapoli is doing well. I'm doing well.
Joey, how can people find you out on the Twitterverse?
You can find me at Buckeye Italian. That's Buckeye, the letter I, Italian. Like, get it? Buckeye Italian.
I get it, because I'm Buckeye, letter I. Whoa. Oops. Playback! All right, I'm just going to cut that out, so we're going to just give me like 5 seconds of silence here, and then I'll cut all that out, and we'll restart here in a second. All right. Welcome to the Corner Kick Show. I'm your host, Nick Prokop. With me today is the venerable Joey DiNapoli. How are you doing today, Joey?
The venerable Joey DiNapoli is doing all right.
All right. And how can people find you out on the Twitterverse?
You can find me on Twitter at Buckeye Italian. That's Buck, the letter I, Italian, Buckeye Italian.
All right. And you can find me at Buckeye, the letter I, Nick7. You can find the show, which is more important than both of us, honestly, at Corner Kick Show. So if you want to tweet at the show, at Corner Kick Show. All right. We are part of the Tangent Bound Network. TangentBoundNetwork.com is our site. If you want to find other shows in the network, whether it be anything from comics to movies to Doctor Who. You can also find other sports shows like the Fourth Line Pod and an interesting show out of Portland done called Reasons Are Several. They're really good guys. They talk a lot of soccer too. So if you're listening to us, you might want to check them out too, because they do a lot of like sports, movies, music, all kinds of random stuff. But we are the Corner Kick Show. As I said, follow us, Corner Kick Show. Subscribe to us on iTunes and Stitcher. To kick off the show, we are going to go down south to the Copa America tournament. Hosted in Chile this year. One thing I got to mention before we get into the breakdown of what's going on so far, I find it interesting that there's so many big players playing in this year's tournament. Then I found out that this is the tournament that sends the team to the Confed Cup for whoever wins this one. Because you would think a year after a World Cup, it would be, okay, this is the year all the major players and national teams take a break, but apparently not. Start off with Group A. We have Chile leading the way with 4 points. Bolivia right there with them with 4 points. Mexico with 2 and Ecuador with 0. So far, this group has been overshadowed by Arturo Vidal being an idiot. Is the best way I could put it. But what are some of your thoughts so far with this group, Joey?
Yeah, I mean, the highlight of this group is pretty much Arturo Vidal being an asshole.
Pretty much.
I mean, to explain for everyone listening, if you haven't known by now, I mean, he got busted for wrecking his Ferrari, getting tagged with a DUI, and it also came out too in the police report that he took a cop. So. I mean, Arturo Vidal is just proving what we already knew about him, that he's just a huge piece of fucking shit of a human being. But he's, like, still leading the league in goals in this tournament, which is, so nothing's going to happen to him. No discipline whatsoever, I expect of it, because they have a lot of interest involved with the tournament being there and him being the basic star attraction of the entire Chilean team. But yeah, I mean, the group's kind of weird, honestly. Mexico's sitting in third right now, and they don't look like they've done too bad a job. I mean, getting 2 draws. They probably should have beat Bolivia, but managing a 3-3 job with Chile, that's a really good result, I think. I think Chile is probably a step above class in them, definitely. But I can't remember how the format goes. It's the top three in every group that goes, right?
It's top three in two of the groups. It's basically kind of like how the Women's World Cup worked, where you had four of the six third place make it through. So it's whoever is the best of the top two of the third place teams will make it through.
Okay, so looking at it now, then Mexico is the worst of the
Yeah,
seeded teams, but it's not like they haven't given themselves a good chance either.
exactly.
All they have to do is beat Ecuador. You
Which is
know,
not that hard. They're looking bad.
I mean that's certainly plausible. That can happen. They probably should beat Ecuador. So, but yeah, I mean it's an interesting group because it's weird.
Well,
Also too, forgot to mention this. I think
not to
but
interrupt, but Ecuador is playing Mexico right now.
what's that?
Ecuador is actually playing Mexico right now as we're talking, and are up 1-0.
Oh, what's
So if it holds, it's 1-0 right now, and if Ecuador, so Mexico would bomb out, Ecuador would be in third place.
Oh, okay. The other thing I was going to throw out there too is I looked at the attendance for some of these matches, and the Bolivia Ecuador match was like 5,000 people. Um, I mean, the last time I checked, Bolivia was boundering with Chile, so I feel it weird that only 5,000 people managed to get out for that match, but whatever. So.
And pretty much with tonight's matches, Chile only needs to get a draw and they're through because Bolivia's the second place team, and they would win on goal differential anyway. So I don't think they'll probably try to destroy Bolivia, but I don't expect a lot from them. Going on to Group B here, I'm actually it's actually kind of funny because all these groups are fairly tight. Argentina at 4, Paraguay at 4, Uruguay at 3, Jamaica at 0. But I got to give a lot of props to the Reggae boys because they've only conceded 2 goals and for the most part have played a strong game against probably the toughest group in this whole competition, in my opinion, because you have 2 heavy hitters in Uruguay and Argentina and up and down kind of South American squad in Paraguay who happen to be doing fairly well right now. I give them a lot of respect for that, especially since certain people didn't think they were actually a CONCACAF nation. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Jamaica did pretty well so far for an African team, I guess. Quoting Ensign Cavani. I'm not being racist or anything. It's a slide at Ensign Cavani. Yeah, though it's also surprising that Uruguay has gotten off to the start that they have, being defending world or not defending world champions, but defending South American champions. I mean, they're struggling to score, like, and they have a lot of people up front. But one of the biggest critiques I've ever had of the Uruguayan team is just that there's nothing in their midfield. Like there's absolutely nothing to bridge and connect, getting the ball out on defense and then matriculating it up the field as soon as possible. Their midfield slows everything down, and I don't know if that's what you want with players like Cavani that need the ball as soon as possible on the fly to score. So.
And not just that, for me, when you look at their defensive depth, it's really weak. You have that young Jimenez kid from Atletico, but other than that, you have Diego Lugano, who's old and basically done. I'm trying to think of the other one. I can't think of the other one at the moment.
I don't think Castros is even playing
I don't
either.
even think so, but
him on the roster, so you don't have Castros either.
Yeah, so they're old and kind of in my opinion. Honestly, you mentioned they're defending South American champions. I have a feeling a lot of that had to do with Diego Forlan, honestly, because he was playing on that team, and he was so much of their attack. He was the one that would set up Cavani. He would set up Suarez. So I really feel like since he's been gone from that team, that's been a big issue for them adjusting into this new time for Uruguay.
Yeah, I agree. There's no Suarez as well on the roster, so I mean, it's pretty much you're trying to hoof balls to Cavani and Hernandez, and that's about it.
Yeah,
that's all you can do.
Well, I thought Suarez was still technically I thought this was also part of his ban for the Chiellini incident, though.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I figured he wouldn't be there, but still, they're gonna probably make it through. They're sitting pretty to make through, and as one of the third place teams, because I don't know if they're gonna pass Paraguay and go to the next round, but we'll see. I mean, they play Paraguay next, but I mean, if it ends in a draw, Paraguay obviously ends in second. But like I said, they hold their own cards and can make it through.
Well,
Um,
if Uruguay gets the draw, they'll pull ahead of Ecuador for the third spot too.
oh yeah, oh yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, they'll still go on.
Yeah, because Ecuador would only be at 3 points anyways. Um, but yeah, I feel bad for Jamaica. It's like they've done well so far. Now they have to go up against Argentina. Argentina is basically considered the favorite so far in this tournament. There's always been talk about like a Argentina versus Chile final because the Chileans wanted their team to make it all the way. But moving on to Group C, right now, it's Brazil at the top with 3 points, Peru in second with 3 points, Venezuela in third with 3 points, and Colombia in fourth with 3 points. Interesting that they're all beating up on each other, especially when you look at this group. You would look at it and be like the bottom and top team would be the top two to go through, and the other two would probably kind of fight for one of those spots to be the third place team to go through. A lot of this, like we said in the first group, was overshadowed by Arturo Vidal. Now this group is being overshadowed by the Neymar headbutt slash Carlos Baca pushing him over scenario. Yeah, they still haven't even ruled on that, from my opinion, from what I heard.
No, Neymar got a one
Oh,
match.
one match. Okay, I wasn't sure if that was like the
Sorry,
final.
Neymar got 3 matches.
Oh, okay, good, 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 good. He deserves it.
Sorry, one match. One match.
Oh, okay. Yeah, 3 matches is coming up.
One match.
One match. Okay, I heard one match, and I was just like, if this was in like any sort of other thing, it would not be one match. It's because it's in Copa America and Brazil's a big draw. Honestly, I'm curious to see what will happen with this team without him, because you look at the classically good Brazil national teams and you think of Cafu, you think of Roberto Carlos, you think of all these other big names like Rivaldo and Ronaldo. So outside of Neymar, who do they really have that's a superstar or someone that can carry this team? I mean, I see a lot of good players. I just don't see that type of player on this team anymore.
Um, there's a bunch of players that could step up. Coutinho could step up. Willian could
Yeah.
step up. Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to get a lot more production out of their midfield players. That's what's going to have to come down to. But yeah, the incident with Neymar, just to remind people, Colombia and Brazil met last year during the World Cup, and Neymar had his spine broken on a somewhat questionable challenge by Zuniga.
Yeah.
And it was understandably a very emotionally charged game for Neymar. Probably having to play them again with all the afterthoughts of what happened last year during the World Cup. Still no excuse though. None. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see where Brazil gets any production out of their squad against Venezuela coming up. I'm not expecting much, but I think a tie would maybe send them through, just because they're on 2 goals.
Yeah.
Venezuela has 1,
Yeah.
so that Venezuela is probably going to try and push for the win because they need to make sure that they go through.
Yes.
Unless, of course, they don't want to go through, then whatever.
Well, in Venezuela, they have the Zenit striker Rondon, who's really, really, really good. That's the problem with Venezuela. They always seem to have one really, really good player, and that's about it. But at least he's getting decent service from the older Juan Arango, who's been playing in Mexico after having some pretty good years in Germany. But that'll be an interesting match to watch. Honestly, this coming Sunday is going to be a very good time to watch these matches because you'll have the Peru-Colombia match, which honestly, even though Peru has some good players like Claudio Pizarro, the now 36-year-old striker that plays for Munich, it's one of those things. I think Colombia will get it done and move on. So Venezuela really does need to win to go through because depending on what happens today in the final, because obviously Mexico and Ecuador aren't final yet. If Mexico turns it around and wins, they have 5 points. They're likely through. So it'll have a lot to do with what happens today. But I think that Brazil can get it done. Like you mentioned, Coutinho. I just don't. I like him a lot. I think he's a really good player. But you look at some of the rest of the roster, and you have Rubinho on this team. You have Diego Tardelli. These guys aren't like really good, flashy Brazil players that you're used to seeing. I mean, Diego Tardelli is right now playing in China for crying out loud. So it's not
too that there's a lot that's come out recently with Brazil and their entire scheme of basically taking auction bids and such, and that influencing their national team selections to some extent. So Brazil's in a mess. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to make any excuses for them. But it's going to be interesting to see how they really do with Neymar, especially considering how poorly they did without Neymar towards the end of the World Cup last year. I don't think they're going to be beaten 7-1 by Venezuela. They don't necessarily have that performance either.
That's true. Well, that's it for Copa America for now. We'll talk about the next round when we get to it. But to kind of give a little talk about what happened this week, and now that we're in the round of 16 in the U.S. Open Cup, doesn't get a lot of buzz. And actually, one of the cool things, Joey, that I like about this year is that YouTube has the rights of the U.S. Open Cup. So you could pretty much just pull up YouTube and watch any Open Cup match you want instead of, I only get maybe this one local match and that's it. But that's been kind of interesting to see some of these lesser known teams. Like one of the teams is Charlotte Independence still in it. And that's one way to get to know some of those players. But to kind of talk about, before we talk about the round of 16, this past Tuesday, both Seattle Sounder teams lost. One at home to rivals Portland Timbers. And they had a bunch of red cards. I believe they ended up at 7 players, if I remember correctly, at the end.
3 red,
7?
1 injury.
8. Okay. So, yeah, obviously, you're playing so shorthanded already. There's already emotions high. It's a rivalry match. But for those that don't know, Clint Dempsey knocks out the book of from the referee's hand, falls on the ground, picks it up, tears it up, throws it in the air, walks away. Gets straight red, sent off. So I was reading the USSF rules on all this, and it's very vague in the sense that USSF technically has the power, but because of the fact that they set the rules for the U.S. leagues, basically, by setting the guidelines for the rules that these leagues must accept, it turns the power to the league to suspend the player. And according to the ruling, the rules compared to the ruling itself are way off because the USSF rulebook shows that anything of this nature should be approximately a 3-month ban from all soccer. It's a star player, and we know how star players go, and we know how MLS is. So when today came and we hear 3-game ban for Clint Dempsey, I was not shocked for one. What did you think about Clint Dempsey's suspension quote?
It was to be expected.
Yeah.
You don't really expect Dempsey to get the hammer because he's Dempsey. He's a cash cow in the MLS. He's a cash cow
for USA.
Up. People want to go and see the best players, and the best players get the best treatment. And it's unfortunate because there's, I think there's very, very, specific things under that ruling that says, you can't touch the referee.
Yeah.
And sure as hell, man, you can't rip up his book.
Yeah.
Like That's just that is so uncalled for.
For those that want the actual rule page, if you look up the manual and look up USSF's manual, it's page 17, section 2C, and then it's all about assault on the ref. The very last line of it says you cannot damage his property or equipment, which equipment would obviously entail his book. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, and I mean for that he should have been. I mean, the ruling also states that they have to be suspended for 3 months, and maybe that's a little bit long. But I mean three matches is like 10% of the intended punishment.
Pretty much.
So yeah, I mean a month I think would have been fair.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. And honestly, 3 months is the minimum. 3 weeks is the minimum because not 3 weeks. 3 matches is the minimum because that's what it is for normal straight red cards. If you're watching like the Premier League or watching somewhere else, and usually it's a straight red, you get 3 matches. And that's kind of what I was thinking with a month because you got to figure. Yeah, USA will want him for Gold Cup, but at the same time, at what cost? But if you really put it in thought to this, you're allowed to bring in players at the quarterfinal stage. So you would be able to bring him in. So if he wasn't on the roster for the group stage, you'd be able, and you don't need Dempsey for the group stage. Chris Wondolowski can score a hat trick against Belize. You don't need him for any sort of smaller teams. You'll have other capable forwards for those guys. You need him for like a Dempsey for Mexico or someone like Honduras or something along those lines. You don't need him for the small minnows of the Gold Cup. Excuse me. But yeah, so a month would have kind of brought you right up until about the quarterfinal stage. You could bring him on the roster at that point. We saw it last Gold Cup with Omar Gonzalez and a couple other people were added in after the group stage, and then they let go a few people because I think it was like Aguchio Nyewu and a couple other people started the group stage that were getting older and really weren't good enough to play in the rest of the tournament. So they let them go and brought in better players. So I think the minimum is a little placating to the stars, but that like you mentioned, the economics of it doesn't make sense, and for the people giving the ruling, and I just don't like it. Seattle fans are going to be all happy about it because they'll have him back. But at what cost? Do you want to give your integrity out for making a star player on the field? What's the cost of it, really, is my thought of it. So moving on. What, you have another thought?
Yeah, I mean, we're also in this height of, mass hysteria about FIFA and how it is. And you completely whiff on a chance.
Exactly.
How the whole entire process isn't arbitrary and that there's actual set in stone rules and you completely just fuck it up.
Exactly.
Yeah, fuck it.
Well, let's stay on the U.S. Open Cup and go on to the new format for the round of 16. For the past, the U.S. Open Cup would always try to do each draw very local because they didn't want teams like, say, PSA Elite leaving Southern California unless they made it deep into the cup. But for up until the round of 16, they've always tried to keep it very local. Help out some of the smaller teams that don't have big budgets to fly around the crazy places in the country. But we ended up having a four tier, basically, like a kind of a 4-sectional bracket now, in the sense that
breaking news. I'm sorry.
What?
Neymar just got his match ban extended to 4 matches, taking out of the Copa America.
Boom!
So,
all right.
All is doing it a lot better than our USF pals up here. So
breaking news. All right. Joey breaking news on the podcast. So after this, you're listening to this, you'll be like, that happened 3 hours ago. Oh, yeah, because that's what it was. All right. Well, to kind of break down, you have 4 teams in the East, 4 teams in what's considered the South, because Columbus was really not in the South. What's considered 4 teams in the Central and 4 teams in the West. Your 4 teams in the East, you have DC United playing again at Philadelphia Union. You have the New York Cosmos playing at New York Red Bulls. And I before we go any farther, I do want to mention about the New York Cosmos beating NYCFC. That was fantastic.
That was a great.
I was happy with that. Outside of the Seattle matches and our own team's match, that was the only other match that really stood out to me because you go 2-2, you go in the PKs, and you end up beating them. That was fantastic, especially for a team like the Cosmos that, yeah, they roll basically on ASL, but they've always been kind of the redheaded stepchild ever since NYCFC was announced. And so basically you take down David Villa and hell yeah, let's do this.
Yeah, that's the big deal of it all. I mean, the fact that, they won against a team that took so many of their ticket holders away.
Exactly.
And honestly, I'm happy for all the Cosmo fans that stayed behind and didn't buy into the entire bullshit conglomerate that is CFC and their promises of bringing Frank Lampard over that, that haven't happened yet. And
yeah, I was gonna say, is he here?
I'll be here in August or something, I guess. I don't
know. Those teams will end up hosting whoever wins Philadelphia and DC for the East bracket, which is kind of cool because now you'll have a bracket set up for that, and then East will end up playing whoever wins that East match will end up hosting whoever's in the South. So in the South, you have on June 30th at Orlando City, you have Columbus Crew SC. What are some of your thoughts on this matchup, Joey, before we go any farther?
Well, I mean, it's the 4th, scheduled matchup of the season between these two, and Orlando is getting 3 at home, and it's honestly disappointing too because, I mean, we didn't even make a bid for to host any 5th round or quarterfinal games.
Mm-hmm.
And it's mostly to do with the operating costs involved. It's just the U.S. Open Cup is just not a big draw here for people in Columbus. They don't know it. They don't understand it, even though we've won it. But it's going to be interesting, and I'm going to go ahead and say right now that I expect Columbus to win that one.
Oh, yeah.
Just because this tournament up to this point is all about depth. And Orlando is not going to put Kaká out there or Lyron, and I think Columbus has a superior depth compared to Orlando. So
yeah, and I was actually pretty shocked with that of Bedell in the last round against Richmond. I've always kind of written him off as a striker because I always felt he was just a tall beanpole that wasn't really doing anything.
From everywhere too. I mean, he header and then his goal from outside the box was just. It was just beautiful. It was some real world-class shit, man.
And that header, actually, that I was actually pretty impressed with that because I was watching live at that point, and it was just a bang-bang play from the outside to his head and in the net. It was fantastic. Yeah, I'm excited about that matchup. I think Crew's is definitely going to try to win that. One other thing to point out, as you mentioned, they won't host any quarterfinal or semifinal, but they could host the final technically. I believe I can't remember how they say the final host. I think it's like a coefficient of how well you've done in the U.S. Open Cup in the past. But when we get that far, we'll talk about it. But that's one part of the South. The other part of the South is Chicago Fire hosting one of the non-MLS teams, Charlotte Independence. I think Chicago will probably handle Charlotte fine. This is usually where we get the last of the non-MLS teams. Once in a while, you'll see a Carolina Railhawks or someone upset someone big and go like semifinals or something along those lines. But them and the Cosmos are the only non-MLS sides in this, and I think the Cosmos are the only team that have a chance to actually win this.
That's my friend. Chicago struggled with Louisville. So they could always struggle against Charlotte, and anything can happen.
Well, it depends.
Charlotte's in this round for a reason, and they beat New England, so I think they deserve just a little bit more respect. And they're teams they're one of the teams that got it done in regulation too. So
True. And one thing for Charlotte, they'll probably put their number ones out there, and I'm sure the Fire probably won't. So that'll be interesting to see what happens there, because I'm thinking the Fire probably will do like a second string type of lineup against Charlotte. I don't think they're going to take it seriously and throw out a. And even so, their number one lineup has holes too. So I don't expect a lot of depth out of Chicago. Moving on to the central location, we have Houston Dynamo hosting the Colorado Rapids and Sporting KC versus FC Dallas. What are your thoughts on these matchups?
they tried really hard to not match up the teams that made more sense.
Yeah.
I mean this whole idea of pairing all these teams to like save on travel costs. I mean, you could have had Houston face off against Dallas and against Colorado, and that would have saved time for everybody. But I mean, it's honestly really hard to tell. I'm gonna go with Dallas and Colorado just because they have a hot hand coming into these matches. Sporting Kansas City is kind of underwhelming. But I think the Houston Colorado match is probably going to be the better out of the two, even though Kansas City and Dallas I think are probably ranked higher in the Western Conference table, the MLS. I've already seen those two teams play, and I mean it would be interesting if Kansas City won. Just based on the fact that last time they played, Kansas City demolished Dallas. But it's going to be interesting to see how their second lineups match up against each other.
That's true. That actually, honestly, it sets up a really nice quarterfinal too for whatever teams win, because all those teams look interesting. And one thing I want to point out, you brought up the whole, it would have made some more sense Houston and FC Dallas. I think one of the things there though is once they get to the MLS teams, they're kind of like, you're the richest in the league, it doesn't matter. Then the final part is the West part. Real Salt Lake hosting the Portland Timbers and San Jose hosting LA at Avaya Stadium. I actually think this is the most intriguing setup because you have two California teams that are actually really, really good right now playing each other. Then you have a resurgent Portland playing an RSL team that's kind of been a little up and down with Jeff Cassar this year. But I really like these matchups. I'll be more intrigued to see what LA does, because LA against PSA Elite, who were one of the lowest teams in the last round, brought out like a full-on A team. They had Jossie Zardes playing, they had Robbie Keane playing, and they just annihilated them like 6 or 7-1. So I'll be intrigued to see how seriously they take this round and how much they actually put against San Jose. But yeah, if they take it as seriously as last time, you're going to probably see a grade A team going up. What are your thoughts on the West?
Well, first I want to give a shout out to Sacramento Republic. They took San Jose to penalty kicks as well, and eventually lost. I like Sacramento a lot just because they have a former Crew left back on the squad, Nemanja Vukovic. Good guy. His wife is awesome too. As for the actual matches that are in play, though, I think it's pretty awesome that we get a California Classico matchup between San Jose and LA Galaxy, and that's going to be really interesting to see. And then you get Real Salt Lake and Portland, the Seattle Sounders beaters. I mean, it's really hard to call, though. I mean, other than I think LA will go on, but I think Portland, Real Salt Lake could go either way. Again, I'm probably going to go with Real Salt Lake, though, just on the fact that Portland. I mean, well, let me put it this way: Chivas could have ridden Seattle the same way. So, yeah.
Okay.
A lot of things go their way against the Seattle Sounders. Their match. Not pretend that they didn't. So.
Well, heading on back north into Canada, we've been talking a little bit about the FIFA Women's World Cup, and all the groups are finally over. Tomorrow, on Saturday the 20th, we start the round of 16 finally, And the first match to kick off, we'll start in this part of the bracket. Germany versus Sweden at 4 p.m. This is one of the main matchups that I have crossed out right away because I found it interesting that the two teams in USA's group that obviously USA won got really bad draws for the round of 16. Germany basically annihilating play up until now, going up against a really good Sweden side that's been a little lackluster when it comes to the attack. But it'll be interesting to see what Sweden can do on defense to stop the German attack, because they just feel like they have a good mix. They have youth. They have some veterans. They've been scoring goals left and right. I don't know how to predict this game because I'm not sure what Sweden team shows up, because they have the ability to score goals. They just haven't really done it this tournament. What are your thoughts on Sweden, Germany?
Honestly, up to this point, I'm really not impressed with Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, their best performance so far has been a 3-3 tie against Nigeria. And, giving up 3 goals to Nigeria kind of feels like they're going to give just as many up to Germany.
Mm-hmm.
And are they going to be able to keep up that pace with them? I don't know. I don't think so. But I mean, once Germany goes on, they have another tough challenge to face. Likely France with their matchup against South Korea. So Germany is going to have to go through the gauntlet a bit just to reach the semifinal.
Pretty much. And as you just said, France, South Korea play on Sunday at 4 p.m. I think France is going to handle this one nicely. They benched a couple of their top players in their last match, mainly because they knew they were going through and that they would have a fairly decent fairly decent draw. And honestly, that quarterfinals matchup looks fantastic. That's going to be one of the most exciting matches of the tournament, in my opinion, with France likely going on to play Germany. I think even though South Korea can be good defensively, I think France is just going to come out gangbusters in this and win like 3-0. They're going to be rested. They're going to be ready. They have really good talent. So Le Sommier, Nassib, all of them are going to be just flying. I don't know if you have anything more on that, but South Korea I think is dead in the water.
Yeah, no. I mean, I fully expect the next round matchup to be France and Germany. So
yeah, moving on to the next part of the bracket, as we mentioned, Sweden and Australia getting pretty tough draws. You have at 1 p.m. on Sunday, Brazil hosting Australia. I feel bad for the Matildas. It was a great story, getting in the second place in the group of death, moving on to the round of 16. And, hey, you get to play one of the most amazing teams in this tournament. When it comes down to the fun teams to watch so far in this tournament, you're looking at Germany, you're looking at Brazil, and you get the other really good team coming in right now. And one thing I've noticed about Brazil so far, in the past, it's always been, Marta putting them on her back and just going at it like crazy, scoring all kinds of goals, carrying them to, say, the quarterfinals or semifinals and bombing out. But this World Cup seems different. They've been scoring from different angles. She's been more of the creator and provider, and then getting back on defense a little bit more, because some of the other girls have been getting forward and scoring goals. What are your thoughts on Australia going up against probably the best team in the tournament right now?
That sucks for them. That really sucks for them.
It does.
Brazil is not the team you want to face. Aside from Germany and both the group of death runners up get that privilege, and that just makes us that much more thankful and grateful that USA finished top of that group, because they would have been in that place.
Oh God, yes.
So yeah, I do expect Brazil to move on against Australia. Not without some fight and grit, though. I think Australia is going to put up a better fight against Brazil than what I expect Sweden to do against Germany, though.
Yeah.
Just going out on a limb, I guess, but yeah.
I mean, I don't think either team has a chance, of winning, but they'll probably put a goal in or two. But yeah, Brazil's been.
Australia has shown that they could be a formidable side, at least. Yeah. In my opinion. Yeah. I mean, they at least got one win out of the group of death, so that I want to think that means something.
Yeah, And the winner of that match will play the current holders, Japan, or the newbies, the Netherlands. I really think Japan, the current holders, will handle that match very, very well. That's the last match of the round of 16, um, Tuesday at 10 p.m. I really I feel like Japan kind of got gifted this in a way because even though the Netherlands showed fairly well in this tournament, you could tell that they were a newbie in this tournament and weren't as together as some other teams like Norway were. Um, I do you think Japan will win and basically be the team to play Brazil likely?
Yeah, I feel that way as well. I mean, Japan's really good defensively, and Netherlands is struggling to create,
Mm.
decent chances on goal, and that really plays into Japan's style of play. So, yeah, I really look forward to Japan facing Brazil.
Yeah, and honestly, that's going to be a fun match to watch if you like a lot of passing because Japan is very smooth when it comes to the passing, and it'll be interesting to see these two teams play off on turf eventually. We could be wrong and get shocked, but I just don't see it right now. Those two teams are really, really good in that part of the bracket. Going to the other side of that bracket, you have Canada versus Switzerland at 7 p.m. on Sunday. Um, Intriguing setup. I think Canada's kind of got the upper hand in that. Switzerland's had an up and down tournament. I don't think they can take care of the host in this round. I think it's gonna be Canada moving on to win to play whoever's the Norway England winner.
I think it's about even, actually. I think
Yeah,
it's only close to
really.
call.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I mean, Switzerland, uh, and I might be just gauging at how bad Ecuador was, but I mean,
Uh,
they know how to create chances. They know how to put pressure on the back line.
True.
I mean, up to this point, Canada's been really good defensively, but uh, only 2 goals
Yeah.
through matches. That's a little bit underwhelming for me. Uh,
And one of
I've
them is a PK.
What's that?
And one of them was a PK in the first match from Sinclair.
Right. So I mean, they've struggled a lot,
Yeah.
and you would expect a team that's as good as Canada is on their home soil to do a little bit better than what they have, and they haven't. I'm almost expecting a letdown, just because of their form through the
Hmm.
first matches. So I'm gonna go with shocker. I'm gonna go with Switzerland.
Okay. For me, I feel like the host nation will have enough energy coming from the fans because I'm sure that they'll come out in droves for this type of match just because it's a knockout round match. And I feel like this is the time for them to come out and support the team and feed them some energy to move on. We'll see what happens. Like you said, their form's not great, but I think it'll just come down to how much energy they put into that match that day. Winner of that will go on to play whoever wins Monday at 5 p.m. between Norway and England. Interesting note on this is Norway and England are both they're both fairly good teams, and they're kind of like the classic strong teams in the sense that in the early stages of the women's game, these two teams were up there with USA as the best. Norway's actually had a little bit more of a resurgence and a lot of humor, if you want to talk about that in a second. But I really think Norway's going to come into this and win just because I feel like they're a more cohesive unit. They handled Germany fairly well for the most part. And then they just handled the bad teams in that group too easily. But no, even when they played one of the better teams in this tournament, Germany, they were very good defensively, and like I said, very cohesive. But you want to talk a little bit about Norway and England, and maybe a little bit of self-deprecating humor from Norway.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I like Norway a lot. Those
Yeah.
girls seem like they put a lot of effort into their craft. Um, Specifically that free kick. I'm still amazed by that free kick.
Oh my God.
It was really good.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I kind of expect Norway to move on. I'm not gonna dabble on it too much. I feel like they're just a little bit more creative than England. It's going to be a really close and contested match, but I give the creativity and effort in set pieces being in Norway's favor going to be the ultimate decider in this match. But yeah, Norway, their women put out a video lately that you can find on Dirty Tackle .net, I believe. I don't know. Try one of those .net, .com, .edu or something. I don't know.
Brooks Pack.
Yeah. Basically, the video is just it's self-deprecation. It plays on every stereotype of women's football that you can imagine. But they have fun with it. They do. I'm not gonna spoil or ruin anything, but it's worth the watch.
Definitely agree. And I will go one further with Norway and say if they win this match against England, they're going to tear apart whoever wins the Canada-Switzerland match. I think whoever wins this match is pretty much going to be the team in the semifinals playing whoever wins the other route. But yeah, I like Norway a lot in this tournament. I could see them going all the way, maybe even to the third place game, which is kind of what I expect at this point from that team. Now, going back to what I consider the easiest route to the semifinals, you have tomorrow at 7:30 p.m., China versus Cameroon. Cameroon actually shown fairly well in this tournament. As we talked about Ecuador being pretty bad, they tore apart them too. China, fairly decent. They were in Canada's group, but they don't have much going forward, in my opinion. They can be somewhat good defensively, but China's been an awkward squad for years. They haven't been good, really, since they made it to the final against USA in 1999. And the weird part about that is this is the first time they've made the knockout rounds since 1999. I have a feeling Cameroon's going to handle this and move on to the quarters. Just based on the fact that China's track record is not good and they were kind of gifted an easy route to the round of 16, in my opinion. But I feel like Cameroon's gotten some confidence after playing some fairly bad teams. But I feel like that confidence will help them get past China and move on to play likely, and I'm not really a shot in the dark here, but likely USA in the next round. What are your thoughts on China, Cameroon?
Yeah, I expect China to go on. I think they have a lot to prove.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember correctly, they didn't even qualify for the last World Cup.
Nope.
Or one of the World Cups. I'm blanking out, but I'm pretty sure they. I mean, I watched some video and they looked very focused on putting out the best effort that they can.
Mm-hmm.
So I fully expect them to go on. I'm not really impressed by Cameroon at all. But yeah, this eventually just sets up for, being the team that likely loses to the U.S. So
pretty much, and kind of why I said it's the easiest route to the semifinals, because the other match is on Monday, and it's USA versus Colombia at 8 p.m. USA, I feel like they were almost gifted this route because you have three of the probably the worst teams in the round of. Well, I wouldn't say the worst teams, but in the bottom tier. One note I got to say about this round of 16 matchup, though, even though I feel like USA will win, don't count out Colombia based on the fact that the way they've played in this tournament, and I'm so happy that another South American team has kind of made that step up and advanced a little bit in the women's game, because it always seemed like Brazil and everybody else, because you saw how bad Ecuador is. Argentina wasn't even in this tournament, I don't think, or were they? I don't even remember, honestly. That's how bad it is.
No.
So it's one of those situations that it was great to see a South American team where there is so much beautiful. The beautiful game is in full thrust down there for the men, but it doesn't seem like for the women. So it's great to finally see a team come out of there and actually make a decent run. Used to be where the South American teams will end up fourth and, well, they're out. But USA is definitely, I think, going to win this. Well, interesting to see what they come out with. I'm curious to see how they do it, because they kind of switched to almost like a diamond in this last match, where they had Rapinoe and Tobin Heath tight to Lloyd, who was the more held back center mid, and Lauren Holiday, who was higher up. And honestly, I felt that was a better decision. I always felt Carly Lloyd was better defensively than the two, and Holiday, who was a former striker anyways, is better at that getting forward and distributing to the ball to the outside or inside to the striker. I kind of like Rapinoe in that tight left mid spot just because of the fact that, as I said after we talked about, I think it was the Australia match, one of the things I was disappointed about the far out wing position she was playing was, she really didn't have a lot of speed to really burn the Australian defenders. So kind of keeping her tight keeps everything compact. So if she finds a glimmer of space, she'll fly through it and then be able to get some space for a cross or something like that into the box. What do you think about USA Colombia?
I think USA wins. I have two general thoughts though that are really non-technical.
Yeah.
First, US needs to start creating chances and banking on them.
Mm-hmm.
I want to put it out there. I expect them to be in the semifinal. I expect them to beat. Oh shit! I can't remember who we're playing now.
We're playing Colombia, and then
Colombia and likely playing China. So
yeah.
I expect them to win. But at the same time, this is two really good opportunities to kind of, turn the script a bit and start scoring goals like everyone's expecting you to.
Exactly.
Means Abby Wambach, stop crying about the playing surface because everyone's playing on the same playing surface.
Yes.
Just job done. Just get it done. The second thought is Rapinoe, she's on a yellow card.
Oh, geez.
So, you get one in either of these two matches, you're going to be looking to sit out in the semifinal, and that can't happen for the U.S.
Well, if she got against Colombia, she would sit out for China, though.
You're right.
So if it happens this match, okay, whatever. Then she's clean for the last two.
Here's the point. Okay, she's accounted for 2 goals and 1 assist.
Yeah.
And right now, as it stands, that's 75% of the USA's goal because they've only scored 4.
Yeah, exactly.
So not fuck anything up with her getting yellow card. Like, I want her to go out, play her game, but don't be too aggressive.
Yeah, exactly. I do want to say, because in the last match we did see LaRue come off the bench. That to me actually was a fantastic role for her because she was able to bring off some of the pressure of some of the more tired legs. Her hold-up play is absolutely fantastic because she was able to make defenders foul her, get the ball in space, get the ball even after they missed on a tackle or something. But her hold-up play was absolutely fantastic, and I really like that role for her. Honestly, is coming off the bench. I don't want to see like 15, 20 minutes. I want to see like the 60th minute, her come in for 30 minutes, be like the hold-up type striker. Wambach's not at a point anymore, honestly, to do that. But maybe not even for 90 minutes. So if you can get early goals from her, that's great. Bring her out in the 60th. Bring in LaRue. Let her use her body because there was plenty of times where she was using her strength against some of these defenders, and they didn't have any answer for her. Which was fantastic. I just wish she would have scored because there were so many times that they had great hold up play, and she could have done like a give and go type scenario, but there was no one giving her support, unfortunately. So hopefully, if they keep doing that, there will be more support with her. Another player I want to highlight really quick, one of the youngest players on this team, Julie Johnston, fantastic in these last couple matches. I felt a little bad for her against Australia because it looked like she was pretty bad, but she stepped back and did great. One of the things I noticed is actually her distribution from the back for a center back is really, really good. She wasn't just hoofing it up or anything. Like she was finding Heath and finding some connectors to get the ball rolling and get players forward. There was actually a play where Krieger was on a breakout and she just got it to her and flew forward for a cross into the box, which was fantastic. From such a young player too, out of this squad, you would expect more of Becky Sauerbrunn, the veteran, to handle things like that. But good on Jolie for her for doing so well. Hope's been so really good too. Like I'm glad that the story run Hope has been kind of dwindled to nothing lately. because she's been. Honestly, I feel like she's been better than Anger, and Anger was rated the best goalkeeper coming into this tournament. So I'm happy to see that she's doing so well and saving that defense so much. One of the things that I want to point out too is in the 2011 World Cup, there were a lot of goals put in against us. So that's a testament to how well that partnership right in front of Hope has been helping out get to give Hope's chance, basically make it so Hope wasn't the scapegoat on everything kind of thing.
Yeah, they've
So
definitely improved in the last two matches as well. I mean,
exactly.
they did everything that I expected them to do. Um, save. Um, oh shit, who do they play? But they
Uh,
tied. Did they beat Nigeria 1-0, right?
they tied 0-0 Sweden.
And 0-0. So I was expecting a 1-0 result over Sweden. That didn't happen, but I was at least content with the way they made defensive improvements after the initial match against Australia.
And
So,
Julie looked great against Schneidlin, the striker from Sweden that's supposed to be one of the best in the world. And Julie just made her look like garbage, honestly, which is great for her. You have any other thoughts on USA, the round of 16, before I have some of my closing thoughts on the World Cup?
no, I think that pretty much sells it. Just expecting USA, Germany, Brazil, and yeah, I'll go with Norway to be there in the finals.
I
So
like those Final Four, and I'm going to say USA versus Brazil in the championship. Um, I saw something today about the Women's World Cup. Obviously, there was not a lot of teams that left already because there's not a lot in the first place. There was only 6 teams eliminated. Two of those 6 teams have had long-standing coaches. They've been there for a long period of time. One of them being Spain and one of them being Mexico. So Spain's players actually wrote a letter to the organization that runs Spanish football. Um, they actually wrote a letter to them saying, "Hey, fire our coach. We don't like him. We're not improving under him." And it's true. They've been stagnant as a nation for the last decade, and they need someone that can kind of help them evolve into the future and be stronger. Because there's no reason Spain shouldn't be a strength in the women's game. I was literally shocked that this came out in a way that I knew it should come anyways because the coach needs to go. But I'm actually pretty proud of these women to say, hey, we need a change here because we need to win, and we're not winning with this guy. Now, on the flip side, I feel like Mexico, of all teams, really needs to do this because it's the same scenario. They've had a manager for about a decade or so, same guy, Leo Kohler, that's done nothing for Mexico, and they're not much better. They've had a couple good years lately, but nothing fantastic or long runs in the cups, and they really, really need to change it up. And I'm just proud that Spain had the balls basically to go and do this, where I feel like Mexico needs to do this too, because in this region they're basically a joke because they get beat we beat them 5-1 a couple months ago. So I'm proud of the Spanish girls for doing that. You have any thoughts on that?
no, I mean they were really disappointing.
Oh yeah,
I really had them pegged for second. I know there was a lot of things out there that I might have said differently about it, but I felt like they really should have beaten Costa Rica. They had really been on
yeah,
like a really bad mental lapse. I mean, they took the 1 goal lead and then forfeited it right away.
pretty much.
They were pretty much, if I remember correctly, they were a crossbar hit away from tying Korea. That I'm not sure if that would have gotten them into the round of 16, putting Korea, Costa Rica, and Spain at I think 2 points apiece. But I mean, it would have made things interesting at least. So yeah, um, yeah. I mean, winning your group in Europe to get to the World Cup is just for Spain is just not going to be enough going
Yeah,
forward. So I'm glad that the women took initiative on that. So that's all I got.
and as I said when we previewed the World Cup, I took down the list of the top 100 females coming into this tournament. Spain had a good amount in the top 50, so it's disappointing that they're bombed out before the round of 16 for that team. But moving on to the final section of the show is what I call the freestyle section. Joey, do you have any topics that you want to throw out there in the world of soccer for us to quickly discuss before we close out?
Yeah, I want to say this one thing.
Okay.
So on social media, you have this option to post something or not post something.
Oh, geez.
Pertaining to Orlando fans, y'all need to fucking knock it off. I mean, you're making yourself look bad. You make yourself look like you don't deserve an MLS team.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically talking about a podcast called the OC Roar that put out a tweet after Orlando beat Charleston, which, by the way, fucking knock it off with a celebration over that, because it took y'all fucking 3 penalties, 10 penalty rounds after the fact to fucking beat them. So y'all need to fucking chill on that shit. That was not a fucking milestone. The OC Roar put out that that the shooting that happened in Charleston was just another candle on the cake.
Oh, God.
And, you know, fuck this, fuck that. We don't want to come back to this fucking city again. Hey, I get it. Like, it's you know, it's something that no one wanted to happen.
Yeah.
You know, but don't refer to it as another candle on the cake. What the fuck does that supposed to mean?
That's retarded.
I mean, are you happy that it happened? Because that's usually the phrase that people use. I don't know. I mean, that's just it. The social commentary as far as politics and involving it with soccer, it needs to end.
Yeah.
In Orlando, I mean, these people down there, they just don't get it. I mean, they put out a lot of stupid shit to begin with, like winning in the stands. Like, that doesn't mean anything. You don't get a fucking trophy for that. Nobody's giving you a pat on the back for it, so just shut the fuck up. I came to Columbus with 300 people and bought our tickets. But aside from that, I really don't give a fuck what you did the entire time. And I personally didn't fucking hear you. So I really don't give a shit. So, yeah, this goes out to everybody, though, not just Orlando fans. Please, before you fucking tweet something, read it 20 times and ask yourself if you should. I mean, what's the harm in that?
Yeah. Does this sound stupid? Should I put this out there? And just to add on to that, as soon as I saw that and saw some of the national media looking at that going, oh, God, this is horrible. That's not the way to make your team famous. That's just stupid. So, well,
Ultra is going to ultra.
Well, yeah, 1492, baby. Okay. So my little last piece here. A feel-good story for those that like Dwayne De Rosario. Tomorrow, June 20th, if you're in the Toronto area, go to BMO Field. I believe it's 3 p.m. They're going to have a testimonial match for Dwayne De Rosario as he has retired from soccer. Fantastic player, amazing athlete. So much for the popularity of the MLS in the early stages of the game. Catalyst in the 2000 Gold Cup win for Canada. He just has a myriad of things when it comes to MLS Cups and other things he has won and done for the game. A lot of big names out of Canada that are playing. A lot of big names out of MLS that are playing. One name that especially the Columbus listeners will know is Kai Kamara will be playing in this match too. So that's fantastic. And just if you're in the area, if you're in Toronto, go see that match. And what I heard from a few fans that I know up there, they're doing it where if you're going to the Toronto FC, New York City FC match that night, that ticket is good for both matches. You get 2 matches of soccer for the price of 1. Do it. And just to see it, just to give a big shout out to such a great player in his time. Obviously, I'm not a Canadian fan. I'm not a Houston Dynamo fan. I'm not a DC United fan. I'm not a Toronto fan. But just to give credit where credit is due, he was such a game changer in MLS. But that's all I have for tonight. Joey, anything else?
Oh, I'm done.
All right. Till we meet again, folks.
Arrivederci.